over time, I tend to cover the same topics or answer the same questions from people. And historically in my videos, I will just focus on one or two topics and then really drill down in them. But in this video, I'm actually going to cover 10 questions, 10 things that I've been asked about a lot lately, and then just give you a lot shorter, more concise answers to those. So I hope this will be a help to you. Hi, I'm Jill Thomas, and each week I bring new videos about living here in Sarasota, moving to the Sunshine State, and then of course, real estate. So if making a move has been on your radar, then this is the channel for you. Be sure to tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and keep on watching. And then when you're ready to sort of take it up to the next level, if you need more information, you need to get some specific questions answered based on your circumstances, then please give me a call, text, or email me. I'm here to help you out. Doing this video, this format, was actually a suggestion that somebody put in the comments section a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a great idea. So here are 10 very common, very frequent, I wouldn't necessarily say they are all the very top 10, but I think 10 really important questions that I've been getting very recently. So here we go about Sarasota real estate. Oh, and also they are in no particular order. Number 1, do I get to move into the house on closing day? The answer is yes. Actually, in the state of Florida, the day of closing belongs to the buyer. So the seller is required to have everything moved out, cleaned out, the house kind of like broom cleaned is how we refer to it as, and the buyer gets the keys on closing day and they can start moving right in once everything is funded, everybody is signed, all of the technical stuff is done. So closing day, the buyer needs to make sure that they've got the utility switched over to their name, insurance is paid, all of that. And so that's how it works here in Florida. Now, I do know that in other states that can change. Like sometimes the seller has so many days or weeks maybe to move out of the house. They get to stay. It's kind of like post-occupancy, or maybe they have to wait for the deed to be recorded. I know that's like that in other states, but in this state of Florida, the day of closing belongs to the buyer. Now, if by chance a seller needs to stay longer, then maybe there could be a post-occupancy agreement drafted or something like that. But otherwise, I'd say 98% of my transactions have been seller moves out, buyer moves in. Number 2, do I really need a real estate agent when I'm doing new construction, when I'm building new? Now, I'm so glad when people ask me this, and I can kind of help explain things and help them to see the larger picture. What happens is when you buy new construction, a lot of times you'll end up meeting with a sales agent that represents the builder, maybe in a model home or a sales center, and then they're certainly there to help navigate the process. Usually they're very nice. They can be very, very helpful. So a lot of times people will assume that that will be sufficient. And hey, I'm buying a new house, so what could go wrong, right? Well, actually, a lot of things can go wrong when you do buy new construction. You're still working with people. People are people, and that's when you can have problems, right? So anyway, what's nice is when you have somebody working with you, another agent that is not representing the builder, you feel like you've got that advocate, somebody looking out for your needs, your best interests. Not to mention, I've done plenty of new construction, worked with a number of different builders. And so I really understand the process, what is normal, what's typical, what can be expected, what you can push for and ask for, and just help you to understand the entire process as you're going through it. So I think that a lot of times people find that beneficial, and I have had a number of issues that have come up. Sometimes you can't, as much as you try to help alleviate or eliminate as many obstacles or barriers or situations, things sometimes just come up. So it's nice to have somebody else there to help make those calls, send those emails, find out what's going on, go over and talk to the builder, go over and talk to the sales agent, have that advocate, that representative just for you. And then also, when you buy a house, it is an emotional process. And then of course, building, it's a very prolonged emotional process because it takes a while. And so a lot of times people just like to have me in their corner, because sometimes when they need to vent or you kind of help them get through some of those emotional struggles, I'm there for them. And so that's really nice as well. And I'm happy just to help, just listen to people and help them and reassure them. And then the final thing I want to mention about this is that keep in mind, a builder does not charge a buyer any more money if they have an agent working with them, or any less money if they don't have an agent working with them. That's not how they work. They factor in my commission, because the builder pays my commission, not you as the consumer. You don't pay it directly to me. So they've already factored that in. So your expenses don't change at all just because you have me helping you with new construction. So I want to relieve you of that as well. So really, why wouldn't you have an agent helping you out when you're doing new construction? I think it's a really helpful thing. Number 3, what are contingencies? So that's kind of a big fancy word, and you'll hear that people will say, oh, well, the purchase is contingent on X, Y, and Z. Well, the definition of a contingency is something can't be completed or fully performed until certain criteria are met. So for instance, when you purchase a home, a contract might be contingent on the buyer getting financing. It could be contingent on the buyer having inspections done, or it could be on the seller as well. It's not always on the buyer. It's contingent on the seller making certain repairs. It's contingent on the seller providing to the buyer a set of condominium documents, and then it's contingent on the buyer reviewing those condominium documents and being okay with them. So those are all examples. Now, even if a buyer says, you know what, I'm going to waive all my contingencies. I'm going to pay cash. I'm not going to have inspections, which I don't recommend. But let's say you just think, oh, this is great for the seller. But there's still some built-in contingencies in the contract. For instance, the seller still has to convey clear title on the property, which means there can't be any liens against the property. Otherwise, it can't be transferred. So those are all different types of contingencies. Something has to be completed or performed. There's certain criteria before the property can be transferred over to the buyer. Number 4. Now, this one is really a big deal right now, and I've been answering this question a lot, even in the last few months, and that is, when do I sell my house up north if I want to move down to Florida? Now, if I answered this question in 2019, or at least before 2020, it would have been different. And then, of course, in the future, the answer could be different again. But in today's market, in August of 2021, this is what I'm telling people. And it's a little bit of a big pill to swallow. So I really want to make sure that you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. All right, so in our area, prior to this current market, prior, let's say, to 2020, we did not see too many deals that take place where the purchase of a property here is contingent on the sale of the buyer's property, whether it's here in Sarasota or elsewhere. So let's focus on people who want to come down from up north to Florida, okay? So that's how I'm gonna package this. So you've got your house, you have to sell it up north first before you can buy something here, and that's really typical. Now, I know up north, it's maybe not as uncommon, or at least prior to this market, where let's say we've got somebody here, person A, wants to sell their house to person B. Person B is going to buy it, but they have to sell their house and they're going to sell it to person C. But then person C has to sell their house and they're going to sell it to person D. So sometimes you get this whole, domino effect here. And if one piece falls apart, then it all falls apart, or at least from here, from this part down. So that's the dilemma, right? And so it's a lot more risky. So again, it's about these contingencies that we talked about, a piece of criteria that has to be met in order for the purchase to take place. So the sale of your house up north the purchase here is contingent on the sale of your house up north. Well, that's a lot of risk for a seller here, especially in today's market, because really the sellers get to really pick and choose who they're going to sell to when there's a lot of multiple offers. So that type of contingency, I would say, really strongly, most likely would not fly. I mean, like I said, 2-3 years ago, it wasn't super common to begin with. And then in today's market, I wouldn't bank on it at all. That's really high risk for you as a buyer that wants to come down here. So if you need to sell your house up north first, you really need a plan B. You got to figure out what you're going to do for housing in the interim. Maybe you can get a rental. Now, the rentals here in the Sarasota area are a little tough too, and they can be quite costly right now. And if you need to consider school zones, and you think, well, this is the school zone I eventually want to buy in, then that's the area you'd want to rent in. So then you're even limiting yourself more about where you can rent in. So that makes it even more challenging. And like I said, they're pretty expensive. So maybe you can rent up north, maybe you can stay with a family member for a while. And I understand not all these things are so ideal. The ideal thing is to sell and turn around and move into that property that you're buying. And I totally get it. But I just don't want any of you to put yourself in a position unknowingly where you might be homeless for a while, or, like I said before, this is already a stressful process. You're going to add even more stress to it. So just a few weeks ago, I think I had this conversation with 3, 4, 5 people, and I felt like I was really bursting their bubbles because they were so excited about coming down, about looking. And then we're talking about, you need to be careful about selling your house up north, and then you don't have a place to go to. And it was very eye-opening for them. So please know, I say this in the sincerest of ways. I don't want anything to happen to any of you where you do feel like you're homeless, especially if you do have kids. I mean, it's one thing if it's a husband and wife and, they're like, okay, we can just muddle our way through it and sort of live in a, just something super inexpensive. Put our stuff in storage. Yeah, it's going to cost more money, but if that's what it takes for us to meet our goals, that's okay. But if you've got kids, that's a lot harder. So please know, it's not that I don't want you to move down here. I don't want you to buy. I don't want you to meet those goals or see those dreams come to reality. I just want you to be smart about it and really count the cost as you take each step. So that's what I'm here for. So if you need to chat with me about that to sort of help you figure it out and work it through, please give me a call. Like I said, I've been talking about this a lot with people lately, and this is a really, really important one. Number 5, when should I talk to a lender? My answer to that is always sooner is better than later. And here is why. When you talk to a lender, they're going to look at everything. There's stuff a lot of times people share with me, but honestly, that's not my shtick. I don't understand how all the lending processes work, but these other folks certainly do. And they're going to give you direction and help so they can maybe come up with a game plan to help you be positioned as best as you can for this purchase. And some of it might be to help you to increase the purchase price. And some people want to do that. They need to do that. Some folks say, I already know I can afford this much, but I only want to pay this much. That's totally fine. But maybe there's things you can do to help decrease the interest rate. Maybe that's what would be a good thing. So they'll give you some homework, kind of consult with you about that and let you know what's the best moves to make to put you in the best position. Now, the other thing too is if you've got some life events coming up, they're going to also help you determine when's the best time to purchase. So let's say you're looking towards retirement. For some folks, it's better if they purchase at home while they're still working, right before they retire, because they've got the income coming in. And some people, it doesn't matter, but that lender is going to help you figure that out, because boy, wouldn't that be a kicker if, you retire a few months later, okay, I'm ready to buy. And before you thought you could afford this much, and now you can only afford that much because you're not working anymore. So they're going to help you sort all that through. Now, the other thing I ask of you is please use a local lender. I know there's major advertising dollars going in for some of these .com companies, big banks, some company where maybe you end up calling a 1-800 number. I have several local lenders that do a phenomenal job for the people that work with me. And please know, I don't get a kickback from them at all. That's actually illegal. They don't do anything for me. I think once I got a $10 Starbucks gift card from one of the guys at Christmas time. I mean, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it was nice of them, but that's not a big deal. So that's illegal for us to get kickbacks from lenders. But what happens is not only do they do a better job with it and they're much more accessible, but also then when you present that offer, you have to have a pre-approval letter. And when a seller and a listing agent see that pre-approval letters from a local lender, somebody they could call, somebody if they wanted to could track them down and go find them at their office, that carries a lot more weight than if you used one of those other companies that I just mentioned. So that's a really important thing. So if you ever need the names of some lenders, if you want to kind of get that ball rolling, please let me know and I'm happy to email those over to you. Okay, we're halfway through. Now, question number 6 is a question I have gotten since day one, 13 years ago when I first got licensed in real estate. And here we go. Now, we all know cash is king. Everybody says that, right? But a lot of times people don't understand why cash is king, because in their mind they figure as a buyer, the seller's getting the same money no matter what. What difference does it make if I'm wiring the money straight out of my bank account to them, or it's coming from the lender, the lending institution? What difference does it make? They're still getting their money no matter what. And that totally makes sense. But it goes back to that C word, contingencies. When somebody's getting a loan, there's so many more contingencies involved. Even when the buyer's pre-approved, they still have to go through full underwriting. They want everything. They need your tax records, your pay stubs. They really do a deep dive into everything. So if something gets a little hinky and all that, the deal could fall apart. And then of course, then the house has to appraise. If a buyer's getting an FHA loan or a VA loan, then there's additional criteria involved, even the condition of the property. So that's a bigger deal. So there's a lot more contingencies. And then let's say something happens with the buyer prior to closing. Maybe they open up a new credit card. Maybe they go and spend a lot of money on furniture. That could, doesn't necessarily mean it would, but it could cause them to not be able to get the loan. Or what if somebody just loses their job? Something happens and they lose their job right before closing. Then they can't get the loan. So all those things have to be factored in. So it's a lot higher risk for that seller to take a buyer who's getting a loan versus somebody who's paying cash. So that is why cash is king. Number 7, when I'm looking to purchase a property, can I use more than one agent? So I've surprisingly have had this conversation with a number of very, very kind, very sincere people. I'm not knocking them at all for asking this question. And I'm glad that they did, because I understand that in this market, it's a little bit of a challenge to find a property. So sometimes people feel like, man, well, if I had more than one agent helping me out, maybe I'll increase my chances of getting a place. I've got more sets of eyes and ears out there, helping me try to figure this out. But I just ask that you guys keep in mind that as agents, the way we get paid is we close. We're 100% commission based. And so we don't get paid for doing an open house or showing people properties or anything like that. So it's all volunteer work until we get to the closing table. So when I work with folks and they, in the end decide just not to buy at all or not to come to our area, then that's totally fine. And I love it when people are just very transparent with me and say, hey, Jill, we're looking here. We're also looking in Fort Lauderdale or something else, or we're looking up in the Panhandle. That's totally okay. That's fine. But if I find out that they did purchase, but they used another agent, well, then that's very discouraging. It's very disappointing because, like I said, we don't get paid unless we close on a property. So I'm giving my time, my energy, and even my money to help somebody out. It can be very time consuming, the whole process. So like I said, it's fine if you choose not to buy here. And also don't just think, well, I want to go look at properties. I'm in Florida. I want to see just for kicks. Please don't call up an agent and do that. Just for fun, go hit some open houses or something like that, but don't, use up an agent's time just for kicks to go look at a place. So like I said, I've had a lot of people ask me that lately. Now, let's suppose you see me here on YouTube, you think, well, I want to call Jill, but I've had some friends or family members refer an agent or two to me as well, and they really like them. So what do I do? Well, this is what I recommend. Just go ahead and call each one, have a conversation with them and say, well, I'm talking to a couple other agents. I'll let you know. And then just pick one and go with them. It's okay. And then honestly, I'd rather have you do that. Say, hey, Jilly, you know what? My sister used this agent. They had a good experience. We all really clicked. Hey, that's awesome. I wanted you guys to do what you're most comfortable with, right? So that's all right. I would prefer you do that than for you to use me a little bit, use them a little bit, because that's just not fair. Now, I will tell you a story that happened last year. A buyer was referred to me, and he is a builder in another state. So he's very familiar with the industry and how all of this works. So anyhow, I was working hard for him, on the phone with him a lot, emailing him properties, answering tons of questions, going to different, actually it was new construction communities, taking video, just doing a lot of work for him. Well, it's a long story of how, but I did find out that he was also working with another agent in the area. So I called him up to have a conversation, And right away, he knew what I was getting at, and he was backtracking. He said, well, you know, Jill, I didn't sign anything saying that I was only going to work with you exclusively. So really what I was doing wasn't unethical. And I go, well, you do realize, though, you understand the process, that here you've got 2 agents working very hard for you, and that if in fact you do buy in our area, only one of the 2 of us are going to get paid, correct? You understood that? He goes, well, yeah. So I said, well, then what you did really wasn't illegal. It wasn't illegal, but it certainly was unethical. And so, of course, we parted ways, so that was fine. But you know, that's very frustrating. It's very discouraging because it takes me away from helping other people like you. So, you know, I would ask that you just be mindful of that, whether it's myself or another agent. And it doesn't matter what market it's in. It's the same thing no matter what. This is how it works. So I would just ask that people respect that. Number 9, how do I buy a house in a town I don't currently live in? Well, of course, I'm really talking to those folks who are up north and they're looking to buy down here. And in a nutshell, I would say it depends on what your comfort level is, and everybody's a little bit different. As I'd already mentioned, you know, buying a home can be emotional, stressful, and then when you're not doing it in the same town, it can certainly add a few other layers of anxiety. So first of all, I'm here to help the best I can. I know for you personally, this might be a new thing to do, especially buying outside of your area. But I would like to reassure you that I'm very much used to working with folks like yourself. So in terms of how to help you the best I can, things I know to look for or help consult with you about, you know, I'm very comfortable with the process. So, but like I said before, though, I don't want to push anybody outside of their comfort level. Now, sometimes in time, their comfort level grows because first you start off like as a ball of anxiety and nerves, and then little by little, you start to kind of relax. And that often happens. But again, even if you stay like this the whole time, I'll stay like this with you. You know, I'll help you out and try to reassure you the best I can. So first of all, it sort of depends on how well you know the area. Some people know it very well, and it's kind of an easier thing. If you've never been here, or you've maybe just come down just to go to the beaches, then I would say come down when you can so we can spend some time together. You can drive around a lot yourself independently and look around. And then also we can spend time together because I'll get you in the car and man, we just talk and talk and talk and talk. And I point out a lot of things. I'll show you properties, even if they're not really your dream place, but just for us to get in there so I can point things out to you, show you things, so you can be aware of them. Because of course our homes here in Florida and in the South are different than homes up in the Midwest or even out in California. So I'll help you go through all of that just so you can be more aware of everything. And then let's say we don't find your dream home while you're here, or even if we put an offer in on something and you don't get it, you go back up north, we'll keep looking, keep talking, maybe send me properties that you see online as well. And then Jill, this one looks like it might be good. I'll go over, we can either FaceTime together, Zoom, or sometimes I'll just take video. And usually if I do that, it takes about a solid 30 minutes because I'll go through the whole house real slow, open up drawers, open up doors, check out everything from top to bottom. We do a ton of research. And then from there, again, it goes back to your comfort level. If you feel good about making that offer, then we're going to do that. Now, if you think that, oh, a few homes came on the market today, maybe I can fly down this weekend and take a look at them. Most likely those homes will be pending. They'll be under contract before you get to the airport. So that's really not a thing that we can do right now in today's market. A couple years ago we could have, and hopefully very soon we can get to that point again. But today that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And then I would say historically, I would sell a property to somebody about once a year who has not seen it first. Sometimes they'll see it during the inspection period. Sometimes they don't see it till closing day or after closing day. But this year, I haven't counted, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 properties I've sold now where people did not see it first. Thankfully, so far so good. Everybody's been more than happy, but that's just sort of the way the market is right now. And so if the whole idea of handling it this way just really freaks you out, then maybe you would need to wait before you buy. Now, I've also had a few people who were able to come down for a month or so and stay here. as they can look around. Maybe they can work remotely or if they're retired. So there's some other things we can talk about too. So if you are looking, thinking about buying down here, then like I said, let me know. And I can help explain the process to you. I'm not going to push you, really hard or anything like that. It's what you're comfortable with doing. And then we'll just take it one little step at a time. And like I said, in time, usually that anxiety sort of releases a little bit and it doesn't feel quite as stressful as what it did the first day that we start talking. Number 10, how do multiple offers work? So in today's market, please go ahead and assume that every listing is going to have multiple offers on it, unless it's like crazy, excessively overpriced. But even some of those that I think are overpriced, they're getting multiple offers and people are going over the list price. So don't assume too much. But in a nutshell, when you have multiple offers, the seller is in the driver's seat and the seller is going to dictate to the listing agent what they can and cannot share to the other buyer's agents. So please don't think that it's their duty or obligation to disclose something to us, like to say, well, they didn't tell us there were multiple offers. Well, they should have told us, I would have come up higher, or, there's none of this, that's not fair kind of thing. Sometimes buyers do get frustrated and I understand why, but this is the way it works. So sometimes you might see where right out the gate in today's market, in the listing, it'll say, okay, let's assume there's going to be multiple offers. So all offers need to be in by 8 o'clock Friday night, and we'll have answers to everybody by Saturday at 3. Okay, so then all right, just come with your highest and best for sure. Or let's say you just get offers in and there's no deadlines. They don't have to tell us if there's other offers on the table. They don't have to tell us anything. In fact, I wrote an offer a day or two ago for somebody, and this morning the listing agent just called me and she said, oh, well, we did have another offer and the seller took that. So we didn't know there was other offers, and this property has been on the market for like 9 days, which is a long time in today's numbers, in today's world. So, but they didn't tell us. And so, just the way it is. And they didn't have to tell us. It's not like I could get mad or, be frustrated with them. So that's expected. So let's say now a seller does get 3 offers in. What I would do as a listing agent to help the seller out is, of course, I email them all the offers, but then I'll make a spreadsheet and say, okay, here's offer 1, 2, 3. Here's the purchase price, the deposits. Are they getting cash and financing? What's the inspections like? What other terms are there? And let's talk about maybe how much you would be netting. And then present that to them in an organized fashion, answer their questions. We'll talk about the pros and cons of each offer. And then it's up to the seller. They can decide to choose one of those 3 offers, or they can pick one and counter it, say, oh, maybe want higher deposit on this one. So then I would go back to the buyer's agent and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. Is the buyer willing to, put in more for a deposit? And then we can get it all signed off and we're under contract. But just because an offer comes in first doesn't mean that the seller has to give it more weight compared to the others. It's not like, oh, well, I'm first in line, so yes or no to me, negotiate with me first. And then if that doesn't work out, now you can go to offer number 2. No. It doesn't work like that. They just get them all. The seller can do whatever they want. So again, they can either say, all right, we do have multiple offers, or they don't have to say we have multiple offers. They can give deadlines and say this is when the offers are due if they want. They can do whatever they want, and that's permissible. So I just want to let you guys know that too, because I know it can be sort of frustrating, but it is what it is. In today's market, just come in strong right away. That's really, really important. So there we are, 10 of the top questions I've been getting lately. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was really fun to do, and I appreciate the suggestion from Ron Gillespie. He's a great commenter on all of my videos, so I appreciate him very much. So thank you, Ron. And if you have any other questions about these things, or like I said, any other suggestions for some questions I could answer in the future, then please put it in the comments below. I'm happy to hear from you guys and hear what you would like to learn about and know more about. Again, I appreciate your support, and thanks for watching. You guys have a great day.